everybody. Welcome to Happy, Holy, Healthy Life. Today, we have one of my favorite people in the entire world. Her name is Barb Raveling, and I do think I am her number one fan. I have all of her books, and I think that you guys are just going to get so much from this interview today. So can you tell us hello, Barb?
Hello, it's good to see all of you. Even though I can't really see you, it's good to imagine you out there.
Absolutely. And I just love Barb because she talks about every issue I have in life. She talks about issues like procrastination and Christian habits and emotional eating and weight loss and just everything in the world. So if you've never met her before, be sure to go to barbraveling.com. And I am honored to talk to you guys today about her new book, which is Saying Goodbye to Emotional Eating. And that is going to be the topic of our conversation today because I know so many of us have struggled with emotional eating, even if it's just at one point in your life or if it's been a lifelong struggle like it has been with me. So, Barb, I'm really curious to just hear what has your journey been like with emotional eating? And if you want to start out by defining emotional eating for us, that would be awesome.
Okay. Well, I would define emotional eating as eating according to your feelings. So, doing what your emotions and your feelings tell you to do rather than what your will tells you to do. And at least for me, when I do that, I usually eat way too much because I love food. I have a tendency to eat for emotional reasons, like when something's going wrong in life. So really, any emotion, insecurity, it can be anger, worry, stress, all those emotions. Eating is an easy go-to because right away it makes us feel kind of feels good. And I would say I started emotional eating probably in high school. In fact, I was on a dance team in high school and we had to make weigh-ins. And I have what I thought was a super low weight. It was 107 pounds and I'm 5'2". And like that's really low. And so I was, I wasn't really overweight at the time, but I was like maybe a few pounds more than that. So I'd have to diet like crazy to make the weigh-ins. And then afterwards, I just eat with relief to be over that. And then after that, that was the only time in my life I was that low weight. So then I started gaining a lot more in college. I was emotional eating all the time, binging, um, you know, feeling regretful the next day, and really throughout my life until probably around I've been free now for about 15 years where I've kept my weight off. I think it's been about that long. And it's not that I never emotionally eat anymore, but it's in control now. So I just do it a little bit. So after I lost my weight 15 years ago, I haven't gained it back. So, but I still, I still have the tendency. If I have a new trial in my life, emotional eating is still what I feel like doing.
Absolutely. I think so many of us can relate to that. And for me, it's been a lifelong struggle. And I'm also growing through looking at your materials. But just like you said, it can definitely be kind of an up and down journey. And so, my question for you is with all of the weight loss, programs and vitamins and gyms and all of the things that we have available today, why do you think it's so hard for people to get free finally from emotional eating?
Well, I think there's a lot of programs that tell us what to do, and we all know what to do. Most of us have been in a weight loss program before. But the thing is, you can know what to do, but in the moment, you don't want to do it, right? Because when something happens that's hard in life, like everything in us is driving us to eat. So we don't have the self-control to say, no, I'm not going to eat. Oh, I need to follow my program, or I need to remember what that book said. We don't have the self-control to do, at least I never did. And so I think all those programs are great. I mean, if it's a healthy program, it's great, and it can be really helpful to have companions in the journey. But I still think we need more to get over emotional eating.
That is so true. And could you tell us about the relationship between the things that we believe and even lies we believe and the strong emotions and desires that we have?
Well, what I found is that the lies I believed fueled my desires to overeat. And so if I'm believing that that was so good, I should have another one. If I'm believing I should have another one, I'm going to want another one. Whereas I have a friend who's never struggled with weight in her life. She doesn't believe that. She believes, oh, you should focus all your, energy into just this one great little treat and enjoy it. And she also would think, if I'm not hungry, why would I eat? So she has all those beliefs that don't drive her to eat, whereas I have all these beliefs that do drive me to eat because I think, oh, it'll make me feel better, or um, it'll be easier to do my job if I just have a little treat first, or I've already blown it today, I might as well eat more. So I have all these things I'm believing that are making me want to eat more than is good for me to eat.
That's so true. And I think that's what's really been the game changer for me all of these years, because I had never really heard anything about our role of beliefs in our weight loss journey. All I would really hear is, some program that would get me really excited. And then I would try to, attack the issue with willpower. But then, like you said, those strong emotions would come up. And I wouldn't think to myself, what am I believing that is creating these feelings? I would think to myself, I just need to ignore these feelings. I just need to like push past them. But like you said, some personality types can do that kind of thing. But for most of us, the emotions are just way too powerful to just overcome all of those urges. And so, what do we do to start changing those feelings and those emotions?
Okay, well, for me, I needed to start renewing my mind. And, the Bible says we're transformed by the renewing of the mind. It doesn't say we're transformed by willpower. Willpower or self control, that's a fruit of the Spirit, and it comes from walking with the Spirit. And the renewing of the mind is something you do with God. So we're looking at the lies that cause us to overeat or emotionally eat, and we're putting on the truth will set us free. Or we're looking at a cultural perspective of food, and we're putting on a biblical perspective. And also, we're comparing the cultural perspective of weight, that idea that you have to be skinny and that's super important, and the biblical perspective, which says, no, it's what's going on the inside that counts, is who we are in the inside. And then also looking at the lies you learned growing up, and compare that to the truth that's in the Bible, because we all learn things growing up that aren't biblical. I mean, there's no perfect family out there. We're all going to learn some things. And so when we renew our minds, we're trying to change all those things.
That's so good. Wow. So, in all of your years of coaching women and even in your own life, what are some of the top lies that seem to come up over and over again for people?
Well, let's see, there's this will make me feel better, or I deserve it. There's a lot of entitlement. We think we deserve a little treat because our day has been so hard, or because we had to work and finally it's our time to relax, or because the kids were acting up today, or even I used to believe back in the beginning I deserve a treat because I followed my weight loss boundaries all day. And so I'd have my little treat at night. All of a sudden I didn't really follow them all day. So that's a good one. More is better. I should have another one, or I'll never get this again. So I better, have it now. I think on the weekend, I deserve to relax. I guess that's another little entitlement one. We might say, oh, it's okay to eat this because it's healthy. When, just because it's healthy, that doesn't mean we should eat it. Kind of depends on what our boundaries are.
Those are all lies that I can definitely relate to. And especially when you said, like, I'll probably not get this again. That's how I am with tiramisu. Because in my mind, it's this rare delicacy. And it's like, okay, I could get tiramisu at other times. And I just feel like if I see the tiramisu, I have to eat it. But you're so right. A lot of these things we tell ourselves just aren't true at all. So,
Right.
another thing you talk a lot about, in addition to renewing our mind to change our desires, is creating boundaries around food. And that was something else that I formerly didn't know a lot about. So, can you tell us more about boundaries with food?
Yeah, I didn't really know about that either. I had started renewing my mind before I really even thought about having lifelong boundaries, because my little practice was I would, keep eating until I reached a certain weight. And once I got up to that weight, I'd think, oh no, I've got to lose weight. That's really bad. And then I try to lose weight and I could never make myself do it. So I keep trying over and over and over again. And then finally I'd make myself do it, maybe on the 40th attempt, lose all that weight. And then as soon as I lost it, I'd go back to eating what I wanted when I wanted. So it never even occurred to me. I mean, it didn't even cross my mind to have any boundaries once I maintained my weight. And that's why I always gained it back again. So lifelong boundaries are boundaries you put in place to keep you from gaining your weight back, or to lose your weight. I mean, some people lose their weight with lifelong boundaries. Right? And I talk about two of those boundaries in the book. I think 3 meals a day and intuitive eating. And some people do the intermittent fasting. I mean, that could be a lifelong boundary. And then a lot of times, to lose our weight, we could do those things to lose our weight, or we could do something like Weight Watch or something like that. But regardless, whether we're trying to lose it, maintain it, we need the boundaries.
That's so good. And I love how you talk about in your materials that life is better with boundaries, because I have one of those personality types where I'm like super free spirited and maybe even a little rebellious. And I constantly wrestle with the lie that no, I want to be able to eat what I want when I want. I want to wake up and go to sleep when I want to. It's just so ingrained in my mind that, doing what I want is freedom. So, how do you help people like me that has like such a hard time with structure, rules, and boundaries?
Well, that's also my personality. I'm the same way. I have a hard time with the whole structure thing. I want to have fun, right? But I think this actually was a truth that was drilled into me through truth journaling or through renewing my mind. Because what I realized is that whenever I did what I want when I wanted, I would do way too much. So it's like a drug addict. If there's a drug addict that does cocaine whenever he wants it, it's going to control his life, right? And if he has that tendency to be addicted, one little thing of cocaine, and okay, so I'm feeling no cocaine. I would give any cocaine. I'm just using this example because we can see it in somebody else's life. Maybe an alcoholic would be better. If he does whatever he wants when he wants with alcohol, he's going to be an alcoholic. And for me, for my personality, if I do whatever I want when I want with food, I'm going to have a really crummy life because I'm going to eat too much. I'm going to have health problems. I'm going to be feeling bloated all the time. My clothes won't fit. I'll wake up feeling depressed and hopeless, and I'll always be craving food. Even now, I recognize if I start breaking my boundaries regularly, even though I don't eat enough to gain weight, I do start thinking about food all the time. And to me, that's not freedom to always be thinking about food. I don't like living that way. So it's really strange, but through renewing my mind, I realized, you know what? I really enjoy life more with boundaries, and not even from a weight perspective, just a life perspective. I enjoy food, eating more if I have boundaries. And also then, I focus on each meal, making each meal a really good meal. Whereas I'm eating whatever I want. It's like by supper, I've already eaten so much. What do I want for supper? You know what I mean? So it does really help you to appreciate food more too. It's surprising.
Definitely. I'm so glad that you brought up the topic of addiction, because I'm a person that believes that, at least for me, things like sugar and like refined white carbs like flour is for me like super, super addictive. So I'm kind of curious about what has your journey been like with sugar, and what are your thoughts about sugar just in general?
Well, when I was breaking free, and this was back when I made the commitment, maybe around 2007 or so, that I was going to renew my mind every time I felt like breaking my boundaries. Back then, I realized that sweets was like an idol for me, and I didn't realize that. So, idol is something you worship. So, I loved sweets. I still love sweets. And it's also something you go to for protection. Something you go to for protection that can't really protect you. And so that's what I did for sweets too. If I was having a hard day, I'd eat my little sweets. So what I realized is that I had to be willing to give up sweets for good if necessary. And that was the first time in my life I'd ever said, I'm willing to give up sweets for good if necessary. And I kind of feel like I needed to do that to break free. I'm not saying everybody needs to do that, but for me, I did. And I did that for 2 or 3 months. I got rid of all sugar, and then I started slowly bringing it back just a little bit. I'd say like sweets only on social occasions. I think for a while I said only fruit-based sweets because they didn't make me binge or eat way too much. So I did that. And then throughout my life, like sometimes I can have sweets without eating too much, and sometimes I can't. So it's not so much that certain sweets are the trigger, it's almost more that the trials the trigger. So if I'm going through a really hard time of life, or even a stressful time, like even right now, here I am publishing a book on emotional eating, and I am craving food. I really feel like breaking my boundaries this last few weeks as I'm getting this book, it's ready to be published. So I think with certain trials, you almost have to be a little bit more careful about how many sweets, if you're a sweets lover, or if you're a chips lover, whatever you add into your life. But I've kind of gone back and forth with having extra boundaries with sweets. I mean, sometimes we say sweets for social occasions only. If I ever have this certain kind of granola I love, I have my husband hide it and just take it out whenever it's time to have a bowl. And I even have him hide it as soon as I make my bowl, because otherwise I'm going to have the second bowl before he hides it again. So you might think, Barb doesn't sound like she's free. She's still struggling. But the truth is, before, my struggle was a 10 on a scale 1 to 10. Now it's a 2 or 3. So it's really hardly anything of a struggle. It's a minor thing in my life. But I'm still a person who has that inclination. So just like an alcoholic, she's never going to be able to have alcohol. For me, I'm always going to have to be careful with sweets.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because it sounds like not only knowing the truth in your mind, but even being honest with yourself about your own struggles. And I think that's where we can really get caught up in the diet world, because so many diets have these really intense rules. But the truth is that we have to be honest with where we're struggling in different seasons of life, and just continue to tell ourselves the truth. Because whenever I do diets, like, I've had the habit of thinking, oh, well, instead of having ice cream, I'll just have, like sugary yogurt and sugary granola. But I wasn't being honest with myself. I'm thinking, oh, this has 80 calories. And of course, granola is healthy, but all of that sugar was triggering me. And then I would just end up going back to the full ice cream. So for me, it would really need to be like limiting even the sugary yogurt and the granola, even if it sounds healthy, because it'd be like, I need to be honest with myself about where it's driving me. Does that sound kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. And I know back when I was losing my weight and I was on Weight Watchers, I got those little, what are they called? Skinny cows or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Is that
Mhm.
what they're called? Those little
Uh-huh.
ice cream sandwiches. And I thought, oh, this is a low cal little treat. I'll have one. And was planning to just have one. And I had the whole box. I think there was like 6 of them in the box in one day. And I thought, well, it's not really a low cal treat anymore if you have all 6 of them in one day. And I know some people can have those one a day. They love it. It really helps them. So I think it's like knowing your own mind. From your experience what sends you to trigger. And you could even, instead of giving up like all sweets, just give up, the ones that really, make you eat way too much. So it's you can be flexible. Yeah.
That's very true. I love that. And you mentioned earlier the idea that food can be an idol, and I think that's like shocking for like a lot of Christian people. It's kind of the thing that a lot of times people don't want to bring up. And so can you tell us kind of like, how did you realize that in your own relationship with God, and how did dealing with the food issues in your life affect your relationship with God?
I think I realized sugar was an idol. Just I was maybe doing a morning quiet time. And I can't remember if it was in Isaiah. I actually have a whole chapter of idolatry in my Bible study, freeing from emotional eating. But as I was reading that chapter in the Bible, I thought, whoa, I'm doing this with sugar, because that passage talked about worshiping the idol and then saying, oh, deliver me. And I'm thinking, that's what I'm doing to sugar. And so I think that's what, when I realized it was an idol. Did it affect my relationship with God? Actually, I'm not. I don't know that it did for sure, because I was probably renewing my mind for 5 or 6 years before I really broke free from emotional eating, broke free from the control of food. And I was really close to God during that time. Sometimes, like if I have intense negative emotions, like fearful or anger or something like that, that will make me feel distance from God. Or if I'm really craving something and focus on that, will make me feel distant from God. But I think what really helped me grow close to him was renewing my mind. Because as I renewed my mind, it was like a way to work through my problems with God, a different way than I was used to. So I wasn't just going to God saying, look how terrible my life is, God. Look what's going on. Can you help me? No, I was actually going to God, and it was almost like I was discussing things with him, even though I couldn't hear an audible voice. But I'd renew my mind. I do what I call truth journaling, write out the beliefs, write out the truths, and then I look at him and I talk to him about it. And I felt like sometimes he was just pouring truth in. I was so excited. I think that practice of truth journaling, and actually I have a lot of truth journaling in this new book, it changed my relationship with God more than anything I've ever done other than reading the Bible. I mean, it was revolutionary. It shocked me.
Wow. And how did you discover truth journaling?
Well, I started truth journaling. I was in a Bible study, my husband and I and another couple, and it was a marriage Bible study. So it's just 2 of our friends we were doing it with. And I said, why don't we do something, each work on some sort of fault that will help us in our marriage? And so I chose my critical spirit, because I had a tendency to be negative and think on just the negative things about my husband. So I said, I'm going to start a think positive project. I'm just going to, whenever I have a negative thought, I'll write it down in my little journal, and then I'll write a positive thought next to it. And before the first week was out, I looked at it and I realized a lot of those negative thoughts were actually lies. I was believing lies about my husband and about our relationship. And so I started replacing those lies with truth, and I called it truth journaling. So that's how it started. And I had made the commitment to truth journal every time I, felt annoyed with them. After 2 months, I could totally see such a huge difference in my feelings for him. Like it totally revolutionized my feelings for him in 2 months. And I followed my commitment. I truth journaled every single time before I went to bed at night. And thought, this is life changing. I'm just going to do this in all areas of my life. I'll do it with food, with procrastination. Boom, boom, boom. Everything will be solved in 2 months. And that didn't work. A lot of things they take way longer. They're way more complicated. I don't think I ever had a stronghold in the area of annoyance or anything like that. So this one was a little bit easier, but emotional eating is hard because there's so many things that tie into it. So let's say we emotionally eat when we're procrastinating, when we're afraid, for this relationship, for that relationship. We're emotionally eating for so many things. There's no way you can't just fix all that at once, right? You can't get over it all at once. So it's kind of like you just start. And if you renew your mind every time you feel like breaking your boundaries, that will help with control. So I kind of think on one side, you work on the food. So we work on realizing that it's not a good idea to eat in response to our emotions. But then the other side, you take all those things that are going on in your life that are causing you to have the negative emotions, and maybe choose one of your life and start working on that. Go to God for help with it. Maybe, listen to podcasts on it, renew your mind in that area. Give up whenever you need to give up, submit to God, all those things. And then once you kind of get that area more under control of the Holy Spirit, then you don't have that area driving you to eat anymore. And I used to think, oh, well then, once I get the food thing over, life will be good. Well, then God pops up some other things. So we'll never have a shortage of things to work on until we go to heaven. But when I look back over the years of growth, because I've been renewing my mind now for 22 years, I see so much growth, and I still see more that needs to change, a lot more that needs to change. But I feel like it's just so amazing what God can do in our lives when we really start renewing our mind. I mean, transformation, it's really very evident.
So good. So I want to make sure I understand how to do this. So let's say I'm brand new to renewing my mind and I want a truth journal and I'm having a problem. Let's say I am eating Oreos every night at 10 p.m. I'm eating 2 sleeves of Oreos. So what I would want to do is I would think about, okay, what beliefs are driving me to eat these Oreos? And then I would see if there's any lies that I'm believing. So let's say I come up with the lie that, Oreos help me sleep better. Oreos are the bow at the end of a hard day. And
I love
maybe
that.
say what?
I love that one. That's a good one.
And that maybe even Oreos help me to be a nicer person in the morning. Let's say that those are my lies. Then I would want to try to find at least one truth for each of those lies. And I would write it out. Is that kind of how it works for truth journaling?
Right. So you'd write out the lie first, like Oreo is the bow at the end of the day. And then you'd say, okay, is this what God would say? So God knows I'm eating a sleeve of Oreos a night or 2 sleeves. So would God say, oh yeah, this is a bow at the end of the day? He probably wouldn't. He'd say, Oreos for you, Barb, they're not a bow at the end of the day. There's something that there's some little treats that are enslaving you. They're keeping you, I don't know, I'd say different things at different times. It's hard to just do it in the moment, but each night I wouldn't write down the same truth. Each day I have to think of it and I'll say, is it true? Say that Oreos make me sleep better. And the truth is, no, they don't make me sleep better. I mean, even studies show that sugar can disrupt your sleep. They make me maybe feel better in the moment about what else went on that day. So they definitely make me feel better in the moment. But overall, if I'm having 2 sleeves of Oreo a day, I'm going to be gaining weight. And when I gain weight, I'm not going to sleep as well. So anyway, you say different things. So the main idea is to engage your mind and to say, is this true? Because sometimes those lies look like truth. We've said them for so many years, especially when you have a whole paragraph of them. The whole paragraph looks like truth. It's not till you take one sentence out and look at one sentence at a time, that you realize, oh, wait a minute, that sentence isn't true. This sentence is a lie. And then the next one's like, oh, that's not true. And then the next one, well, that might be true. But anyway, after you pick the whole paragraph apart, it's like, okay, now I can go back and I can see that was a lie. But at the time I couldn't, because I was just so believing it's the truth. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. And so you would say that basically, if I go through the truths, there's a good likelihood that my desires will change in the moment. But even if it doesn't, over time, doing it over and over again, my desire for the Oreos will start to change. Would you
Yeah,
say
I'd
that?
say your desire should always change in the moment. And if it doesn't, it'd be good to check to see what you're doing. In my new book, I have a whole section on how to write truth for the lies. And that's a section kind of to refer to if you are truth journaling and you're finding that the truth isn't changing your desires. So the truth should change your desires in that moment. Like I would no longer want the Oreos. Okay. In fact, I've done it a few times in life where I've truth journaled while I was eating the thing I was breaking my boundaries with, and my desires changed so that I threw away what I was eating and didn't finish it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but I could truth journal about the Oreos at 10 at night and wake up at midnight and feel like having an Oreo again. So the truth should change your desires, but it doesn't last. In the beginning, it only lasts for 2 or 3 hours. So you have to keep renewing throughout the day. So you have all these little victories, and you start stringing them together, and pretty soon you're living in victory. So first, all you hear is the lie. Then eventually, after you renew your mind a bunch, you'll start hearing the truth at the same time as the lie. And then eventually you won't hear the lie. So I think it's good to find a truth that works for the lie, a truth that actually addresses the lie. Like, here's an example. Lately, I've been having extra grapes. So I know grapes, they're healthy. You'd think, oh, Barb, what's the big deal, grapes? But I've been breaking my boundaries with them. So I'd have a second helping when I say I can't have second helpings, and I'll have them for a random snack when, it's not in my boundaries. And I was saying to myself, well, grapes are healthy, so it's not a big deal. And the truth, I actually asked this in my Facebook group, and they came up some good truths. And the truth that really is changing me, I think, is grapes might be healthy, but they're not healthy for me if they're causing me to break my boundaries, or they're not healthy if you're not hungry for them. So you need to find a truth that's going to change your mind. I mean, you don't want to overthink it. It's all going to work out okay. But yeah.
Has there ever been a time where you've been kind of stumped with coming up with a truth and you just said, like, Lord, give me a truth to help me break down this lie? Has that ever happened to you at all?
And that hasn't really happened, but I have looked over at past truth journal entries and thought, wow, I don't know if I quite really saw the truth there. So maybe if I looked at an entry, way back in the beginning, a year earlier, I thought I didn't really have the whole truth, but I still had enough truth to change desires. I still came to the same conclusions. And what I found is God, he kind of gives, more and more truth. So the more you truth journal, the more truth that will be revealed to you. So it's like if you have a big ball of yarn, you start out, you don't even know what's on the inside yet. So it's like you can only handle the lies and truths on the outside, but you're going to keep getting more into the issue. But I have had people tell me too that they have a hard time figuring out the truth. I think sometimes I have an analytical mind, so it's easy. But some people have a hard time coming up with lies. Some have a hard time coming up with truth. And I do have a whole chapter in truth journaling in my new book where I give lots of examples of truth for different food lies. And then I also, in the renewing exercises, there's 100 renewing exercises. I think maybe, I'm not sure if there's 20 or 30 exercises. They're just where I just put down 5 lies and then everybody's supposed to write the truth for it. So that, at least I think that will help with the, kind of training for people who have a struggle with that. And I also have lots of free resources at my website too, if money's an issue.
Yeah. I want to jump in and tell my audience actually that you have lots of different modes of renewing the mind. So one of them is truth journaling, but another one is her I Deserve a Donut app. And she has all of the common lies and struggles already mapped out in the form of questions. So instead of having to like think of truth and lies in the midst of like, a food attack, I can just open my I Deserve a Donut app and look at entitlement questions. And it gets me thinking about, am I feeling like I deserve this as a reward? Is it really a reward? And then at the end, she actually has scriptures. So it's like the work is already done. in a lot of these, questions, and all you have to do is look at them. So I'm glad that we could bring that up too, because the thing that's so neat about your resources is you have something for everybody. And then I've lately kind of rediscovered your option charts. And actually, I just randomly have one like laying around here. Probably can't see it on camera, but
Yeah.
it's this really neat thing where basically, actually, it's probably better for you to tell us a little bit about option charts if you can.
Well, option charts, actually, that started back when I was truth journaling about my marriage, because what I realized when I was truth journaling is that, yeah, I was believing lies, but the truth journal, I felt better, but there were still some things I wasn't happy about. So then it's like, okay, I put down, okay, I can't have what I want. For my husband to change cheerfully and right away, right? And so what can I do? What can I do? And so I crossed out that, no, I can't change them. I can't change other people. But this is what I can do. I could, like, say, do the silent treatment. I could keep nagging at him to change, or I could keep silently resenting him. And, so you do all these little things. And in the book, I have option charts on food, but I'm just saying, okay, what you do is you write down your options, and you write down your options of what we normally do in life, different ways that we do things that aren't getting good results. And then I always put what I call the love, accept, and forgive option, or the God option at the bottom. And then I say, how does it affect, how does each of those options affect, my happiness, what I'm trying to change, my relationship with God. And I put little up and down arrows. I guess I have a hard time explaining it. But the bottom line is, what an option chart does is it shows us the consequences of our actions. And a lot of times we're thinking, I can't, my life will be so boring if I follow food boundaries, or, whatever it is we're struggling with, we'll have something like that in each situation. But the truth is, my life will be better if I follow food boundaries. So the option chart just shows in black and white what my current actions, what's the outcome going to be of those actions. So I
That's so
don't
good.
do
And
a very good job of explaining it.
I'll definitely include all of your links because you've got videos showing how to do it and blog posts and everything. So I'll make sure to put all of those links. That's so good. So, what I'm hearing from you is that it truly is a lot of mental work, like a lot of work. And I think probably that's why people have such a hard time overcoming emotional eating, because I think our culture just sells us on 21 days for this and 30-day weight loss plan, but they don't really get at all of those mental beliefs. And so how long did it end up taking you to you got to a place of food freedom, would you say?
What's interesting, when I made the commitment to renew my mind, every time I felt like breaking my boundaries. And that was probably after maybe 4 to 5 years of renewing my mind. I don't think it took that long. It might have only taken a few months, but I'd already worked on different areas of my life. So let's say that annoyance with my husband was creating 5 pounds of weight. So I had worked through some of those issues. So I wasn't starting from square one, but I don't think I mean, for some people, it doesn't take very long at all. They just start losing consistently. And usually those people, when people write to me and say that's what's happening, they're usually renewing their mind 3 times a day. When people write to me and say, I can't lose weight, usually what happens is they're not renewing their mind at all. or maybe once in a while, or maybe even once in the morning. But usually when we're tempted to break boundaries, it's in the afternoon, evening. So yeah, it takes some work, but every time I renew my mind, way back when I was breaking free, it only took less than 5 minutes each time I did it. So
Okay.
if you're just renewing your mind about the food, if you're just writing, doing some sort of renewing your mind activity, I don't know if those I deserve a donut questions, how long they would take. Might take 5 minutes, or I don't
Yeah,
really know.
it could. Yeah, if you're an overdoer like me, like I end up getting out notebooks and writing pages, but it truly does not have to take that long, just a few minutes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that's a good point. You can make it so it doesn't take up that long. It might sound like a lot when you're listening, when you're watching this video, but it doesn't have to take that long. And then I guess I'd also say too, we put in effort for different things we want in life. A lot of people have gone to college to get degrees. You expect to study when you go to college, you expect to go to the classes. And I guess I'd say, how much effort would you be willing to put in if you knew you're going to break free from emotional eating or eating and find freedom? To me, it's one of those things that's worth the effort. Like, a lot of people put in exercise effort, but I think the renewing effort is just as much, because the exercise, it helps get us fit, but the renewing helps us actually follow our boundaries. So to me, the renewing is really important for the food aspect of it.
Definitely. So it sounds like what you're saying is that it doesn't necessarily have to be super hard in the moment, but people have to be really consistent and take it seriously if they want to truly break free long term. Is that
That's
kind of
so
what you're
true.
saying?
Yeah. Take it seriously, follow through on that commitment. All the areas I've changed in, they've been areas I've taken seriously. Yeah, I agree.
That is so good. So I guess my final question that I'll ask you is, what would you say to somebody that's been like me, that they feel like they've tried like 37 diets and read 24 weight loss books, but they're finding themselves like in the same place and they're just thinking that, this is never going to work. I'm never going to get free. What would you say to that person?
I would say, first of all, don't beat yourself up and don't say, I can't believe I'm still struggling with this, because this is such a hard problem to overcome, because it's not one of those goals where you can just check it off the list and say, I'm done now, right? It's something that you have to keep doing. So it's really hard. And not only that, it's something where, we love food. We're not opposed to eating large amounts. We emotionally eat. We've got all these things driving us to eat. So don't feel bad that you're struggling with it. It's not a surprise you're struggling with. And then I'd encourage you to try renewing the mind, to try to make a commitment that you'll renew every time you feel like breaking your boundaries. So set boundaries first, and then make that commitment to renew your mind every time you break them, and believe in the process. Okay, I would not have believed in the process if I hadn't seen it work in my marriage and change my marriage. I wouldn't have believed in it, because eating was just so hard. I thought there's no way I'll ever break free. But because I believed in the process, I was able to keep doing it. And what happened first, and this is what happens first with most of the women I talk to, the binging disappears. So you completely get that lie out of your head that, well, I already broke it, I might as well break it more, and then just do the whole binge thing. So that usually disappears first. Like, I never binge, I never stuff myself. I do break my boundaries at times. Okay, but because I don't beat myself up, don't do all those other things, I don't gain the weight. So anyway, yeah, make the commitment, do it, give it a try, give yourself grace. If something's not working, figure out what it is, figure out a way to make it work. So like, if you don't want to renew because you are a person who just writes out really, really long answers and it takes too long, shorten it up and try and just make do a shorter renewing time. So that's something that can change too. Because a lot of times when I was breaking free all those years ago, I would just write down one lie and one truth. So I still have that journal at my house, and it might just have one lie and one truth many, many times, or maybe 2 or 3 lies at the most and 3 truths. Yeah. And do whatever renewing technique is easiest for you. Go to my website, find all those other techniques, or this book. The new book will make it really easy because it just has 100 exercises.
That sounds so good. And again, for the audience, she is at barbraveling.com. She has 2 amazing podcasts, Taste for Truth podcast and Christian Habits podcast. She has tons of free stuff online, renewing the mind questions, Bible studies online, and tons of great books. So we are so thankful that you spent this time with us today, Miss Barb Raveling. Anything else you want to leave us with before we close?
Well, just that I'm excited. All of you guys listening, I know you're at different stages of life. And, I think back to different stages of my life, back in my early 20s when I was in college, or 19, how much I was struggling. I think I could have had so much of a better life if I would have known about renewing a mind back then and started renewing right away. So I just encourage you to start renewing. It doesn't have to be about weight. You could take anything in your life and start renewing on that. And I'm just excited to see what God would do in your life if you go that route. I'd be excited for you.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you guys for watching with us. Let us know if you have any questions. We can definitely bring Barb Raveling back. And we hope you guys have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.